I've spent a good chunk of my life paying attention to the politics of this country, to the people who shape it, and to the stories that often get overlooked. But I've got to say, since starting this series, my understanding of Canada has shifted in the best possible way. Because once you really see the North, once you start listening to the people who live there, you just can't unsee it. And honestly, you won't want to. I'm Hannah Thibodeau. This is The Arctic Edge. Stories from Canada's frontier. Stories that stay with you.
We have a really unique story to tell the rest of the country.
Stories of rich culture and history.
This place in the 1950s was half a dozen buildings. Now there's 2,000 people that live here.
This podcast has been something of an awakening for all of us on the team. We've learned that the geographic center of this country isn't Ontario. It isn't Quebec. It's Baker Lake, Nunavut.
My name is Peter Tabatai. I'm from Baker Lake, Nunavut, the geographical center of Canada.
We've learned that Nunavut means our land in Inuktitut.
Instead of calling the territorial government the Northwest Territories, we'll call it Nunavut, our land.
And maybe most importantly, we've come to understand that Nunavut wasn't just carved out on a map, it was imagined, designed.
It was an amazing thrill to actually see new maps that came out showing this huge new territory extending right up to the North Pole.
A vision brought to life by Inuit leaders.
These young leaders were very brilliant, they were smart.
Who understood exactly what they were doing.
I'm still very proud of them that they did that, created a Nunavut.
They weren't just sketching out borders. They were building a future, one rooted in culture, in community, and in economic strength. In the land beneath their feet. And you know what? They were absolutely right to bet on that land.
They're in the resource development business by design.
And we've learned resource development in the North, it's not just some policy debate. It's the foundation of a thriving future, not just for the Arctic, but for the whole country. And the companies that succeed in the far north, they're the ones that get that. Companies like Akeeagok invest in more than just profits. They invest in people, in infrastructure, in building communities that last.
Building schools in some parts of the north, building roads in some part of the north. Runways have to be constructed.
And mining is the backbone of Nunavut's economy.
It's our biggest GDP to the territory.
And over the past 25 years, mining has built more than GDP. It's built a full-on ecosystem of jobs and industries that didn't exist before. Everything from logistics to transportation and professional services.
We have civil works companies, we have blasting companies, we have transportation companies, both airlines and shipping companies.
And now, the next chapter is being written by Inuit themselves. We're seeing this incredible rise in Inuit-led, Inuit-owned businesses. They're rooted in culture and built with long-term impact in mind. The obvious benefit? Inuit entrepreneurs signing paychecks for Inuit employees. And that's huge. But it's more than that. What does it really mean to have Inuit ownership and leadership shaping the economy of Nunavut? What does that unlock for the future? Well, it all starts and ends with the land.
I have a business called Akeeagok Environmental, and we do environmental consulting, biology essentially.
We met Derek Irwin back in episode 3 of our series. He's an Inuit entrepreneur who launched Akeeagok Environmental in his 20s. Before most people find their footing, Derek was already planting his, right in the land that inspired him.
I got started in environmental work after I graduated from the Nunavut program.
His first gig took him to Baffin Island, where he was thrown into real hands-on work.
And I did baseline habitat studies across 900 different water bodies along a proposed railway. And I fell in love with environmental work.
That experience in Baffin Island inspired him to enroll in the Environmental Technology program in Inuit. And Derek started his company before he even graduated.
What we do essentially is we provide services to resource development companies and mining agencies and governments for the provision of fisheries and wildlife.
Derek's first big contract? Agnico Eagle. The mining company was expanding a site and needed help with a sensitive environmental issue. There were ponds full of fish near the mine, and they didn't want to damage the ecosystem. Akeeagok Environmental got the job.
It was our first job, and I was so happy we landed it.
And it was big. I mean, really big.
We moved 10,000 stickleback from 7 different ponds and moved them to another pond, to help further resource development.
10,000 stickle what?
They're tiny, small little fish here. They're found all over the world, and they don't grow much past 13 centimeters.
Okay, so let's add stickleback to that growing list of things this podcast is teaching us. But seriously, why go to the trouble of relocating 10,000 stickleback?
Because even though they're so small and, they're kind of culturally irrelevant, like we don't really harvest stickleback, they're still a part of the environment. And, with the mindset of respecting the environment in its entirety, it is important for, for other animals like birds and other fish who eat these species. And so instead of just getting rid of them, we capture them and we move them to a bigger lake.
We've heard this environmental ethic in previous episodes of The Arctic Edge. While a mine might shut down or shift sites, the values they leave behind, those stick.
You're here for a short time. You respect that land, and you return it in the state that you found it or better.
That's David Akeeagok, Nunavut's Minister for Community Services. He says that is the standard. Sustaining the environment isn't optional. It's the starting point. It's the foundation of the trust and accountability that every resource company must earn if they want to do business in Nunavut. And Derek? He's taking that one step further. He knows mining isn't forever, but the impact it leaves behind can be.
Mining in a certain area has a limited lifespan. There's only so much resources in that area. But luckily, the skills and the support that people get from these jobs, they fully translate to longer term success because they will take those skills and knowledge with them forever, essentially.
And Derek is making sure those skills and that mindset go even deeper. At Akeeagok Environmental, he's not just building a business, he's building capacity, hiring and mentoring Inuit staff, people who want to be out on the land.
It's very interesting. We had 9 out of our 11 staff as Inuit, which I think is a huge milestone. Like, for an environmental project of that size, having that many Inuit on the project, I think it's almost unheard of. And so that's kind of what Akeeagok Environmental does, is it wants to go out and provide Inuit the opportunity to work in the environment field, like go and work outside, go and catch some fish, right? Like, it naturally aligns with our strong suits in every single staff that worked with us that summer wants to come back again this summer. And I think it's great.
A new generation of Inuit leadership is rising, and they're guided by traditional knowledge, cultural strength, and the drive to build something that lasts. Ensuring the land is better off for the next generation. Ensuring the community is stronger for their efforts.
And the entire goal and what drives us every single day is to create jobs for Inuit.
David Kakuktinniq is the president and CEO for Sakku Investments Corporation. It's the Inuit Birthright Corporation representing Inuit in the Kivalliq region.
We're one of the tools in the basket that helps connect the work opportunities that the industry has, and then purposely our role and mission is to connect it to Inuit, to the benefit of Inuit.
David's not saying mission accomplished just yet. But let's be honest, it's a mission with momentum. Sakku Investments has grown into a Nunavut success story, an Inuit-owned success story.
Our board at the Regional Inuit Association is 100% Inuit. Our board at Sakku Investments Corp, 100% Inuit. The majority of our employees, I think we're about 76% right now that are Inuit out of our 24 positions that we carry at Sakku Investments.
Inuit-led, Inuit-owned. These aren't some aspirational buzzwords. It's the reality. David said Sakku's mission is built into the DNA of Nunavut and rooted in the very land claims that shaped the territory from the start.
And that's why we have this moniker in terms of being a birthright corporation. It's born out of the Nunavut land claims. So with that role and responsibility, our purpose in life is to ensure the quality of life, the opportunities, the economic and social aspects of the engagement of various industries within our region to be purposely connected to Inuit and to support them, and that includes providing training and job opportunities and so forth.
And Inuit-led, Inuit-owned isn't simply a business model label. It's an economic framework. Derek Irwin reminds us his Inuit ancestors moved with the seasons, built what they needed, used every part of what the land gave.
Just a few generations ago, Inuit were a highly nomadic people. We moved with purpose. During the summer months, we ate fish, we hunted whales, walrus, and tuktu. And to hunt, make clothes, innovate, and survive, we made tools, and each tool had a purpose. We invented the kayak or the umek. We invented the unak or the harpoon so that we could encounter whales out in the ocean and harvest them. And we carved rocks into pullak so that we could use the whale fat for a fire source. We also had tools for the wintertime. Everything we did had a purpose. All of our tools had a purpose. Our tools were lightweight and they were of the highest quality. And this is so that we could travel with them and that they lasted and that they were reliable.
And today, he says the tools of the 21st century may look different, but the intention behind them is the same. They're purposeful, they're long-lasting, and they're reliable.
In this modern world, we still use the tools that I was just talking about, but they're no longer necessary if we simply just stay in town. And I want the youth to imagine their thoughts as the tools that they carry with them to survive. I want them to carefully craft their thoughts, just like our ancestors did with their tools. And I also want them to understand that our thoughts are not only crafted by ourselves, but the environment in which we place ourselves and the people we surround ourselves with.
Derek's nomadic ancestors defined their culture and language through their relationship with the land. They put community care above all else. It was never just about surviving the cold. It's been about building something that lasts. His ancestors carved tools that could cross oceans. Now Inuit leaders are carving out space in boardrooms, on job sites, in decision-making rooms. Same mindset, different tools. and it's working. Inuit-led and Inuit-owned. It's a declaration that the future of Nunavut isn't being handed over. It's being built deliberately, powerfully, and with deep roots in the land. It's about knowing exactly who you are and refusing to let anyone else define what comes next. Leave the land better. Leave the community stronger. That's the legacy. That's the promise. Next time on the Arctic Edge, we'll introduce you to some of the Inuit-owned companies putting Nunavut on the map. From complex infrastructure to craft beer and a widely popular Netflix show.
I am a modern Inuk woman.
That's turning heads far beyond the tundra.
I got married out of high school, started a family. Now he's the town golden boy, and I'm his wife.
Plus, we'll tell you about a charitable trust owned and operated by Northerners, created to reward innovation, teamwork, and homegrown brilliance. I'm Hannah Thibodeau. Thank you for listening to The Arctic Edge. Stories from Canada's frontier.